Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you're all well. I'm going to try something new in this video as we take a look at the interior of this Heathkit model HR-10B receiver. I'm going to try to keep the babble and bullshit to a minimum. Yeah, I hope this video turns out. Hang on. There, I had to clear my throat. How rude of me. I hope I don't make a fool of myself. Yeah, let me start over. I hope this video turns out. I'm going to take you off the tripod. I'm going to show you something. One moment. Okay, guys, this video is going to be pretty easy to make, but you know it's going to be hard is the next one because, well, it's in here. I can't reach it anyway. It's that list where I've committed myself to the restoration order. Stupid. Because what I really want to do is finish the restoration on that Heathkit model TC2 tube tester, tube checker. I want to use that for all the other stuff, man. Problem is, if I do that next, I'll have proven Mr. Aaron Parsons correct. Now, one moment. Had to spit, man. Welcome back to the landfill. Okay, I'm going to get on with things and be serious now. When I'm going to do an inspection on a piece of equipment that I plan to restore, I like to get set up. I like to clean off the bench, except for the few tools I need, and I keep them put away for the most part. Once I get the cabinet taken apart, I have my pad of paper because I'll check all the components. At this stage, as I'm doing the interior inspection, the initial one, I'm also testing all of the components that I plan to or that could potentially need replacement. So I like to clear the workbench off, all except for the couple tools I need, my pad of paper, the pens I plan to use, my multimeter, which I've mentioned before. I think I paid like $18 for it. It's called a Proster VC97. I've also seen the same exact meter called a Vici 97. Spectacular piece of test equipment. I prefer that over my Fluke because you press the blue button down while turning it on and it disables the timeout, the auto sleep function, and it'll stay on. And it uses two AA rechargeable. I've got rechargeables in it, and it'll run for days and days and days on one charge. So I have my meter there set to ohms, or as Buzz says, ohms. And yeah, so at this point, I'm ready to go. I'm going to do something else that's a little different. I'm going to stick you back on the tripod, turn my backlighting on, and have you watch me struggle this cabinet apart. Hang on. Okay, sorry about the background noise, but I need to have my computer running because there's a spreadsheet that I wrote. This is hard working. You hear people complaining or mentioning it all the time. It really is hard. I find it easier to stand off to the side of the camera while I work rather than stand behind it and hug it. These screws come right out. I'm going to turn it around. The nice part about these Heathkits, at least most of them, I don't know about a DX100. If you've never seen a Heathkit DX100 transmitter, you should Google it. thing weighed, I think it weighed close to 100 pounds, 95 pounds if I'm not mistaken. You know what I mean? Weighed more than most of you people. I'm going to reposition the tripod. Okay, need to unplug this little speaker, somebody's little speaker mod. The nice thing about these Heathkits, at least the newer ones, meaning the 50-year-old ones, is that the top slides off like that, and the bottom is just a flat metal plate that screws on separately. So, there we go. I'm going to adjust the light and zoom you in. Let's take a look at this thing, man. I'm going to pause you and tilt it up with a spacer. When I'm working, it's another thing. One moment. It's another thing when I'm going to be restoring a piece of equipment. Another item I have on my bench, a handful of different size and shape spacers. Hang on. Okay, guys, I'm going to make it quick here if possible. What do I see? What strikes my eye? What does Blowzo lay his peepers on? I mentioned this power transformer before in the last video, and the remarkable condition of the laminations. They're iron, and boy do they love to rust. You know, let that paint get worn away and see what happens. I don't know if it's intact electrically, but physically it's beautiful. And you know what I like to do to see how much mileage a machine has on it? I like to take a look at the vacuum tubes. Believe it or not, I've restored tabletop AM radios, pre-war ones that had all the original tubes in them. You know, radios were barely used, and the tubes were all fine. It's an indicator of how much use a machine has had. And so, things are not boding well, because already I can see, I hope this is on camera. Yeah. Here's a Sylvania. Here's a Westinghouse. Here's a GE. Here's an IEC. What do I see? These crystals, they look like heterodyne oscillator crystals, but like I said in the last video, I don't know the architecture used. I don't know if it uses a heterodyne oscillator, like in their SB101, HW100, HW101 series. In those machines, the local oscillator, the VFO, tunes a 500 kilohertz segment, a half a megahertz, at 4.5 to 5 megahertz. That's the frequency the VFOs run at, and they mix it with a heterodyne oscillator crystal to obtain the operating frequency. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. I noticed, nice to see the tube shield was there. The next question is, are they in the right position? My SB101 transceiver that I mostly restored. It needs an alignment if you want to see it done. It had the tube shields, but they were in the wrong places. I almost knocked this down just now, by the way. If I knock it down, I'm going to cry. Hang on. Okay, I zoomed you in on this transformer right here. There's really not too much to see on the top deck here. One thing I'm curious about is how supple these wires are on this transformer. And I don't know what transformer. It looks like an audio output transformer, but who knows? I have never looked at the assembly manual or the schematic. I'll try moving them a little bit with a pair of pointy pliers. Take them and try squishing the wire. Did it squish? Yeah, easily and nicely. I'm going to zoom you back out and tip it down. Hang on. Before I tip you back down and zoom you out, though, I zoomed you in farther. Look at the condition of the chassis. You see all that grit and grime? That's not a bad thing. It's usually an oily film. I don't know why homes have such an oily film in the air, but they do. And that's not such a bad thing all the time. It protects, with aluminum, it protects the aluminum against undue oxidation, but especially with steel. Many elderly chassis that are steel have a cadmium plating, and it protects the cadmium plating from oxidation. When cadmium oxidizes, it turns a yellow color, and it's not good for your health. I have pre-wetted a Q-tip. This one's just plain water. Let's see what just plain water does for this. Let me turn the Q-tip around. Dry it off. I'm going to look real closely at that. You can try to do the same. Yeah, I want to see the condition of the metal. There's some pitting there. You'll see, I'm sorry to bump you. There's a little pit there, little tiny pits. So my approach, I'm going to slide you over a little bit. Try to slide you down a little bit. Oof, there we go. My approach to cleaning a metal chassis is a conservative one. I don't like to attack it with harsh chemicals if I don't need to. I start with water, give it a good cleaning and rubbing with water, and see how that does it, and see what that does for it. This Q-tip I've moistened with 70% isopropyl alcohol. I know this is boring as hell, but this is my chance to see what I'm working with, man. Because once we record this and I flip it over, I'll be spending some time underneath the chassis testing parts. I'm going to pause you. Okay, so you can see here, if I can grab the pencil and not knock you over and not knock, you can see here that the alcohol cleaning spot is no different than the water, so obviously I'll use water. Okay, I'm going to tip the receiver down, zoom you out. Hang on. Let's look at the dial card. Is that a Pray? Pray tell? Some people hate. They just hate restringing dial cards, and I'd like to. It's a challenge. Oh, listen to that. Can you hear that? It's Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Let's look at the, let's take a look at the bearings in that tuning cap. I not pause you. I zoom you. Ooh. Funky. Funky. Yeah, it's funky. Let me look closer. A lot of dirt, a lot of dust stuck to grease. Grease isn't hard though. The contact, this is the wiper contact. It's grounded and it wipes, it keeps tension on this rotor. This rotor, these plates are at ground potential through the frame, or they're at the frame potential. Sometimes the frame's lifted from chassis electrically. but these plates, the stationary ones, are connected to the terminals. Anyway, yeah, the grease needs to be flushed. I use lacquer thinner. It dissolves it nicely. I just clean it all out. I re-grease the ball bearings, and then I re-clean the wiper to remove the grease. Any grease I get on that wiper, I want off of there. And after I re-clean this, I'll oftentimes apply one little drop of light machine oil. And the same with that little guy. That little guy is the one that I noted Mr. Squeaky. Look at this. You want to see something shitty? Hang on. Look at this shit, man. Yeah, I thought the bushing was dry, in need of lubrication. Yeah. What bushings? Yeah, Heathkit didn't see the need to use a bushing. They just drilled a hole. I really don't see anything else to note on top here other than what we've talked about, except for this. Check this out. I can't say I've ever seen this before on a Heathkit. What's up with that? Are they service stickers? You'd think there'd be a date if there were. Is it a factory built unit? Was there such a thing on this model? I don't think so. I've never had a Heathkit that I assembled that had a sticker like that. Hang on. I paused you. They can be used again in my ears. I'm going to turn this thing up on its end. I don't feel comfortable doing it on video because I'll smash it. Hang on. Holy shit, 17 and a half minutes in? How is this possible? How is this possible? I see my first two little ugly little rust spots on the bottom. The rest of it's not terrible. No, this video is too long. I'm not going to make you watch me take those screws out. I won't remove the panel until you're back. Hang on. Okay, guys, I got the screws out. Man, I don't like working behind it with the camera on pause. I feel like it's over there saying, come on, come on, come on. Hurry up, come on, come on. You know what I mean? Shit, I'd rather work with it rolling and be able to babble. Okay, let's check it out, man. This thing has a seize-to-band wafer switch. I've never seen inside one of these before. I've got to figure out how to repair it for my brother Art and shut him up. Boom, there it is. Let me take a look around, man. Yeah, I pause you. I zoom you. Okay, guys. Boy, difficult to get acceptable lighting. I forgot to do one thing, and that was turn my screen brightness all the way up on my phone before I began. So now everything looks dark. Oh, man. Excuse me. So what do I see? Just taking a quick look overall. I'll start at the top and work my way down. First impressions. Pretty clean. What you'd expect in a covered unit. Almost all disc capacitors. I'm going to pause you and zoom you in, and we'll take a look from the top down. Excuse me. I got to start clearing my throat before I unpause you. Disc capacitors. You see so much of this really old stuff, and you have a nightmare of tubular paper and wax capacitors. Now, what do I see? For some reason, somebody's taken a Sharpie pen and written a P, and I don't know what that character is, next to that IF coil. And again, for these crystals, one's labeled N and one's labeled M. I don't know if that was like a building a thing when they built it, or I see other characters, an F and an N. Oftentimes you'll see the tubes labeled on the bottom, such as V1, V7, with a Sharpie. But again, when you see that, why did they do that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because when you're troubleshooting a machine like this, you need to know what tube's what. And yeah, you could have a paper component locator opened up alongside your schematic, or you can just write it on the unit. You know what I mean? I was pointing and you couldn't even see. Anyway, Sharpie written all over it. What else do I see? Let's look down here, man. Let's look back up. Here's the band switch assembly. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wafers. That's a lot of wafers. I gotta be honest with you. I dropped 1 drop of machine oil on that bushing to see if that were the problem. And what I just did there, you generally don't want to move wires around in a band switch. You'd knock the calibration out of whack. I'm going to put another drop of oil. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to put another drop, a couple drops of oil right here on those detent balls. And I really doubt that's going to do anything for it, but I gotta know, man. Because I'll be repairing and cleaning the band switch assembly. I'm going to do that on a separate video. Yeah, see those? Ooh, and there it went. That's what it was. That was stopping it from moving. That is way too much tension on that band switch. My God, that has to be repaired. That has to be retensioned. I'm going to show how to do that in a separate video. I'm going to show how to properly, in my opinion, clean and lubricate a Heathkit wafer switch. You don't want to get lubricant on the wrong parts, or its life will be greatly reduced. It's a phenolic material and it absorbs oils, and it swells, and once it swells, it's done for. You'd have to find a donor unit to bring it back to life. Let me zoom you down. Instead of zooming you down, I'm going to pause you and drop the tripod a bit. Hang on. Okay, there, I cleared my throat first this time. More disc capacitors. These ceramic discs rarely go bad. They do go bad. I couldn't believe it when I first started working in biomedical engineering and I started finding, based on the advice of a senior technician, I started finding what I thought was impossible: shorted disc capacitors. What do I see? These 2 big power resistors look too new, especially this guy right here. But so does this guy. And looking at the leads, somebody J-hooked them rather than soldering the new component leads directly to the filter capacitor. And somebody has written an H with Sharpie and an HC. And anyway, that's neither here nor there. What do I see? Not too much jumps out at my eye. This green capacitor is covered with a white. Is it dust? Or is it a carcinogenic chemical? Should I taste it? Nothing really jumps out at me. This is dusty too, and so is this. It's got that white dust on it. Curious. Anyway, yeah, no paper capacitors. It's got, this may be blasphemy to some, but these older Heathkit units, it may be blasphemy to some, man, but I like to replace the silicone diodes with modern 1N4008s. I think it's cheap insurance. It's easy preventive medicine, man. It really is, you know what I mean? Especially in power supplies. Well, specifically in power supplies, the OEM silicone diodes are gone. Need to replace the across, the usual things, man. The across the line safety capacitors with the correct ones, with X1, Y2 safety caps. That means you can go X1, Y2 safety caps. You can go from either neutral or hot to ground, or you can bridge neutral and hot. And when they fail open, not shorted. The rationale there is if you've got a safety cap from hot to chassis, you've got a floating chassis and you've got a safety cap from hot to chassis and it fails shorted, now your floating chassis is a hot chassis waiting to electrocute you. Anyway, man, hang on, I paused you. So, in conclusion, guys, it needs all the usual things. It needs to be lubricated, all the moving parts, bushings, bearings, whatnot, lubricated. The pots need to be cleaned. The band switch needs to be serviced, which I'll show in a future video. I don't know if I'm going to use this one. It's a little busy, like I thought. I think I'll probably use another Heathkit. Lord knows I've got enough of them up here waiting. One of them will be a subject of a wafer switch refurbishment. Yeah, boy, that is a tight switch, and it takes about 1 minute to fix. What do I see though? How many resistors? It's not a nightmare of capacitors, it's a nightmare of resistors. Boy, oh boy, there's a lot of them. I'm gonna check every one. You wanna pick one and see what it measures? Let's check that guy. Looks like he's 82K. Yeah, 82K. Let me grab my Vita. Probes. Watch out. Oh, come on, man. Watch me have picked one that's... No, I can't remember which one I told you I was gonna... You know what, man? Boy, I hope my eyes are not deceiving me, man. I need to get my face up close, and I can't because you're in the way. Hang on. Yeah, so that's a 68K resistor, and you can see what it reads. It's on its way up. It's on its way out. It's a 10% resistor, so it's out of tolerance. I'm going to show you something that I just find incredibly handy when I'm done babbling. So at this point, I'll just do all of the resistor testing. I'll consult the schematic to see what it calls for in terms of filter capacitors, and I'll write that down on my order list. there are no electrolytics below chassis, so this is actually going to be a very easy restoration, especially given that the band switch moves now. Yeah, so I'll list all the resistors that are out of tolerance and any other parts that I see that I'll need to replace. There's the diodes, but I have a million of them on hand. So let me think for a moment. What do I want to say in addition about this unit? Not too much. Not too much. After I clean the potentiometers, I'll test them. And I'm going to pause you, pick you up just a sec. When testing the potentiometers, that is the last thing in the world you want to use. That is what you do want to use, an analog meter, whether it be a vacuum tube voltmeter like that, or a basic multimeter like that. Even your Radio Shack pocket multimeter from 1970 would be better than that, as long as it's got an analog meter. So yeah. Anything else? Oh yeah, I want to show you something. Hang on. I pause you. Okay, guys. Just be glad that's not you in that farmhouse. Who'd believe you? Who'd believe you? Everyone would laugh in your face, and you've got implants under your skin and shit. But I digress. Oh God, I should have got the mouse in my grasp. I want to show you this N8NK unit spreadsheet that I've written. I use it a lot when restoring, and I'll show you why. It's this last section down here, okay? Why, it's a fuzz with my glasses on. I use this a lot. I'm going to zoom you in on that. Hang on. Okay. In this box is the tolerance. Let's say that resistor was 10%, okay? Here, resistance. You can either input ohms, k ohms, meg ohms, and the result will be in the same units. That resistor we looked at was 68K, right? I'll type in 68. The acceptable range of resistances will be between 61.2K and 74.8K, right? What did it measure? 77 point some K? It was out of tolerance. And, you know,